When I was just 16, I stumbled upon the dark underbelly of the internet known as the deep web. At first, it was simply a fascination with the forbidden, a thrill of accessing a hidden world beyond the surface web. I started out innocently enough, browsing drug marketplaces and exploring strange forums. But as I delved deeper, I found myself in a labyrinth of depravity. Chat rooms filled with discussions that turned my stomach, where people openly discussed unspeakable acts. It was like stepping into a nightmare, where morality seemed to have no place. Despite my better judgment, I couldn't tear myself away. The allure of the forbidden was intoxicating, drawing me deeper into a world I knew I shouldn't be a part of. I convinced myself I was just an observer, a curious bystander in this dark circus. But then, I made a fatal mistake. In a moment of reckless curiosity, I revealed my age in a chat room. Suddenly, I became a target for predators lurking in the shadows. They preyed on my vulnerability, exploiting my naivety for their own twisted desires. Before I knew it, I was ensnared in a web of manipulation and deceit. I engaged in conversations that made my skin crawl, exchanging messages and even photos with people whose intentions I dare not imagine. It was a descent into madness, a journey into the darkest corners of human depravity. I tried to resist, to pull myself back from the edge, but it was like drowning in quicksand. The more I struggled, the deeper I sank. It wasn't until my computer crashed, forcing me to take a break from the darkness, that I realized the gravity of my situation. In the months that followed, I wrestled with guilt and shame, haunted by the memories of what I had seen and done. It was a wake-up call, a harsh reminder of the dangers that lurk in the shadows of the internet. I've never shared this story with anyone, never dared to speak the words out loud. But it weighs heavy on my conscience, a burden I can no longer bear alone. I hope that by sharing my experience, I can warn others of the dangers that lurk in the depths of cyberspace, and perhaps find some measure of redemption for myself. As I reflect on those dark days, I can't help but wonder how it all began. Was it mere curiosity that led me down that path, or was there something darker lurking within me, waiting to be unleashed? It's a question that haunts me to this day, a reminder of the thin line between innocence and corruption. I remember the first time I accessed the deep web, the thrill of venturing into the unknown. It felt like I was breaking free from the constraints of the surface web, exploring a hidden world that few dared to tread. Little did I know the horrors that awaited me in the shadows. At first, it was all innocent enough. I browsed drug marketplaces, fascinated by the array of substances available for purchase. It was like being a kid in a candy store, except the candy was illegal drugs and the store was a shady corner of the internet. But then, I stumbled upon something far more sinister. Chat rooms filled with discussions of violence, exploitation, and abuse. It was like peering into the darkest recesses of humanity, where the worst of human nature was laid bare for all to see. I should have turned back then, closed my browser and never looked back. But something compelled me to stay, to keep exploring this dark and twisted world. Perhaps it was morbid curiosity, or maybe it was a desire to confront the darkness within myself. Whatever the reason, I found myself drawn deeper into the abyss. I started frequenting chat rooms where unspeakable acts were discussed in chilling detail. It was like being a spectator at a grotesque carnival, watching as the performers danced on the edge of sanity. And then, one day, I made a fatal mistake. In a moment of reckless abandon, I revealed my age in a chat room filled with predators. Suddenly, I became a target for their twisted desires, a pawn in their sick and twisted games. I should have known better, should have realized the danger I was in. But I was young and naive, blinded by my own curiosity and foolishness. I engaged in conversations that made my skin crawl, exchanging messages and even photos with people whose intentions I dare not imagine. Looking back, I shudder at the thought of what could have happened if my computer hadn't crashed. It was like a wake-up call, a harsh reminder of the danger I was in. I vowed then and there to never return to the dark web, to leave that twisted world behind me once and for all. But the scars of my experiences still linger, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurks within us all. I've never spoken about what happened, never dared to share the full extent of my experiences. But perhaps now, after all these years, it's time to finally confront the demons that have haunted me for so long. As I write these words, I feel a sense of catharsis wash over me, a weight lifted from my shoulders. It's a small step towards redemption, towards reclaiming my innocence and my humanity. And though the memories may never fade, I take comfort in knowing that I've finally found the courage to confront the darkness that once threatened to consume me. So to anyone reading this, heed my warning: the dark web is not a place for the faint of heart. It's a twisted and dangerous world, where the line between fantasy and reality blurs and the innocent are preyed upon by forces beyond their comprehension. Proceed with caution, lest you find yourself ensnared in a web of darkness from which there is no escape. Hey there! I'm new but putting my all into sharing real horror stories. Your support is my motivation. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Your comments mean the world to me. Let's make this journey together. The story I heard still haunts me to this day, a chilling reminder of the unfathomable darkness that lurks within the shadows of the internet. It began with a tale so horrifying and surreal that it seemed ripped from the pages of a macabre thriller, yet it bore the unmistakable ring of truth. As the narrative unfolded, I found myself transported into a world of terror and despair, where innocence is but a fleeting illusion and the depths of human depravity know no bounds. It centered around a young man, barely out of his teens, whose life was irrevocably altered by a chance encounter with a nightmare incarnate. The protagonist, a kid of around 19 or 20, found himself ensnared in a web of horror when he crossed paths with a seemingly innocuous stranger, a homeless-looking man whose outward appearance belied the malevolent darkness that lurked within. Without warning, he was snatched from the safety of his ordinary existence and thrust into a waking nightmare beyond his worst imaginings. Bound and gagged, he was thrust into the confines of a dark and claustrophobic trunk, his heart pounding with terror as he struggled to make sense of the surreal nightmare unfolding around him. Yet, even in the grip of fear, he clung to the slender thread of hope provided by his cell phone, a lifeline to the outside world and his only hope of salvation. In a desperate bid for survival, he managed to covertly dial 911, his trembling fingers navigating the labyrinthine depths of his phone with a sense of urgency born of sheer desperation. As the line connected and he poured out his heart-wrenching plea for help, a glimmer of hope flickered to life within him, a fragile beacon in the suffocating darkness of his captivity. But fate, it seemed, had other plans in store for him. Almost instantly, the telltale wail of sirens pierced the silence, heralding the arrival of salvation, or so he thought. For when the police officer arrived on the scene, his worst fears were realized in a chilling twist of fate. The officer, far from being the harbinger of rescue he had prayed for, was complicit in his abduction, a willing participant in a diabolical scheme orchestrated by forces beyond his comprehension. With a cold and calculated demeanor, he informed the young man that there was no sign of a kidnapping, no cause for alarm, just a routine traffic stop, nothing more. In a surreal and nightmarish turn of events, the officer accepted a bribe from the very man who had abducted him, turning a blind eye to the unspeakable horrors unfolding mere inches away. With a sense of resignation bordering on despair, the young man realized that he was truly alone, trapped in a living hell from which there seemed to be no escape. And so, he was sold like chattel to the highest bidder, a commodity to be bought and sold on the twisted black market of human suffering. The buyer, a faceless figure shrouded in mystery, was rumored to be a Russian operative with ties to the darkest echelons of the criminal underworld, a man with a penchant for the macabre and a thirst for blood. Miraculously, against all odds, the young man managed to evade the grim fate that awaited him. Through a stroke of luck or divine intervention, the authorities intervened before the final curtain could fall, pulling him back from the precipice of oblivion just as his tormentors prepared to deliver the final, fatal blow. But the scars he bore, both physical and emotional, were a constant reminder of the horrors he had endured, a testament to the fragility of life in a world consumed by darkness. His legs and knees, mangled beyond recognition by the cruel ministrations of his captors, served as a grim memento mori, a chilling reminder of the price of survival in a world where innocence is but a fleeting illusion. The story sent shivers cascading down my spine, a grim reminder of the harrowing realities that lurk in the shadows of cyberspace. It served as a stark warning against the dangers of trusting strangers and venturing into the darker corners of the internet, where the line between reality and nightmare blurs and the innocent are preyed upon by forces beyond their comprehension. As I pondered the tale's chilling implications, I couldn't help but wonder how many others had fallen victim to the insidious machinations of those who lurk in the darkest recesses of the web? How many more would suffer the same fate, their lives forever altered by a chance encounter with the darkness that dwells within us all? In the end, the story left me with more questions than answers, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the ever-present specter of evil that lurks just beyond the threshold of our perception. And though I may never know the full extent of the horrors that await those who dare to peer into the abyss, one thing remains abundantly clear: the darkness is always watching, always waiting, biding its time until the moment is right to strike with merciless precision. It's a sobering thought, one that lingers in the recesses of my mind, casting a shadow over even the most mundane aspects of daily life. The tale served as a stark reminder that evil knows no bounds, that it can manifest in the most unexpected and insidious of ways. It left me questioning the very nature of humanity, grappling with the uncomfortable truth that darkness exists within us all, lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to be unleashed. But amidst the despair and horror, there was a glimmer of hope, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the capacity for survival against all odds. The young man, though scarred and broken, had emerged from the crucible of his ordeal with a newfound strength, a determination to reclaim his life and defy the forces that sought to destroy him. His story, though harrowing and nightmarish, served as a beacon of light in the darkness, a reminder that even in the face of unspeakable evil, there is still hope. It was a testament to the indomitable human spirit, to the power of courage and resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity. As I reflected on the tale, I couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of purpose, a determination to shine a light into the darkest corners of the internet, to expose the horrors that lurk within and to fight against the forces of darkness that seek to engulf us all. For though the road ahead may be fraught with peril, I refuse to cower in the face of fear. Armed with the knowledge that even the darkest night must eventually give way to the light of dawn, I will continue to press forward, to confront the darkness head-on and to reclaim the promise of a brighter tomorrow. And so, as I close the chapter on this chilling tale, I do so with a sense of resolve, a determination to never forget the horrors that lurk in the shadows and to never lose sight of the hope that burns within us all. For in the end, it is our resilience, our courage, and our unwavering determination to stand against the darkness that will ultimately lead us into the light. In 2011, an archaeologist in the United Kingdom picked out one of the many human skulls sitting on his shelf. The 17th-century European male was missing most of his teeth and mandible, but the skull was clean and generally in decent condition. The archaeologist photographed it, described it, and listed it on eBay. At the time, the popular online auction site allowed anyone to trade in human bones as long as the remains were clean, articulated, and for medical purposes. The 17th-century skull was neither articulated nor did it go to a doctor, but it did fetch the archaeologist $750, minus the usual fees from eBay and PayPal. This was the skull that started Zan Wys Obsession. Wiley was studying facial expressions, and he wanted an authentic skull to study how muscles attach to the bone. I looked online to see if I could get a real skull, and to my surprise there were several dozen available, says Wiley, who asked to go by the pseudonym he now uses for business purposes. He named his acquisition Yorick, the first of many skulls he'd eventually purchase online. By late 2011, he had started carving designs into them and selling them on his website and at conferences, eventually making a living primarily through his bony art. Wiley was hardly alone. Communities of people who collect oddities and bones were well aware of how easy it was to list something on eBay when no one had to prove provenance or medical affiliation. But now, academic and legal professionals are starting to take notice. I must admit, delving into the depths of the internet has exposed me to some of the most horrifying and gut-wrenching content imaginable. One particular video, a Mexican narco production, seared itself into my consciousness with a ferocity that left me reeling. In it, a man was subjected to unspeakable torture, his hands cruelly severed, his eyes gouged out, and his face mercilessly flayed with a box cutter. The perpetrators, callous and indifferent to his suffering, danced in his blood on the pristine white tiles of the floor, the strains of "Sweet Child O' Mine" providing a sickening soundtrack to their barbarity. What chilled me to the bone was the fact that despite the unimaginable agony he must have been enduring, the victim remained conscious throughout the ordeal. It was as if his tormentors were intentionally prolonging his suffering, ensuring he was kept alive by pumping him full of methamphetamine through and for, just so they could revel in his pain for a little while longer. To add to the grotesque spectacle, one of the assailants inserted a pole into the mutilated man's mouth, a cruel and senseless act that defied comprehension. The climax of this macabre theater of cruelty came when the victim was finally beheaded with the very box cutter that had been used to strip him of his humanity. By this point, the blade had become blunt and ineffective, further prolonging his agony and adding a sickening twist to an already horrific scene. As if that weren't enough, my foray into the darkest corners of the internet led me to stumble upon other atrocities that shook me to my core. The infamous video of Ken Pinion, brutally violated to death by a stallion, left me feeling nauseated and disturbed, yet it paled in comparison to the visceral horror of the Mexican Narco video. Another haunting memory that continues to haunt me is the sight of a young woman, barely out of her teens, stripped bare from the waist down and forced to kneel before being callously executed with multiple gunshot wounds to her abdomen. The harrowing image of her writhing in agony, bleeding out as she cried out in pain, is seared into my mind like a brand, a testament to the depths of human cruelty. And then there was the video of a girl, her fate unknown, about to be subjected to the most gruesome fate imaginable, being gutted like an animal. I couldn't bring myself to watch it, the mere thought of the horrors that awaited her enough to turn my stomach. But perhaps the most chilling of all is the infamous Ghost Rider Narco video, a harrowing spectacle of sadism and brutality that defies description. In it, a cartel boss is subjected to a relentless onslaught of torture, his head repeatedly doused with alcohol and set ablaze until he is left with nothing but a charred, skinless skull, yet still somehow clinging to life. I have not seen this video myself, but the mere thought of it is enough to send shivers down my spine. In the end, these encounters with the darkest manifestations of human depravity have left me shaken and disillusioned, grappling with the realization that such horrors exist in the world. And though I may try to bury these memories deep within the recesses of my mind, they continue to haunt me, a grim reminder of the boundless depths of human cruelty. My heart pounded erratically as I scrolled through the torrent of messages flooding my inbox. Among them, one stood out like a sinister beacon, its contents sending a chill down my spine. It was from a woman, claiming to be interested in me for dating. A British accent tinged her words, adding an air of sophistication to her proposition. She was undeniably attractive, her profile picture a testament to her beauty. But there was something unsettling about her persistence. You see, I was already spoken for, committed to another in a relationship built on trust and love. Politely, I informed her of my situation, hoping she would respect the boundaries I had set. Instead, she erupted in a fury, her words laced with venomous threats that reverberated through the depths of my soul. She promised to unleash a storm of chaos upon my life, a tsunami of destruction that would leave me reeling in its wake. And then, as if to underscore her intent, she dropped the bombshell, a sinister ultimatum that sent shivers cascading down my spine. She claimed to possess nude photos of herself, photos she had allegedly intended to share with me in a misguided attempt to entice my affections. Now, fueled by a volatile mix of rejection and rage, she vowed to use those very images against me, threatening to send them to my wife using my own phone number. I was paralyzed with fear, the ground crumbling beneath my feet as I struggled to comprehend the gravity of her words. How had she obtained my number? And more importantly, how did she intend to carry out her sinister plot? It was then that I noticed a friend request from her, blinking innocuously on my Facebook profile. A quick glance revealed similar overtures on Instagram, a relentless pursuit that bordered on obsession. It was as if she had wormed her way into every facet of my digital existence, a specter lurking in the shadows, biding her time until the moment of reckoning arrived. My mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. Had she hacked into my accounts, mining them for personal information to fuel her twisted vendetta? Or worse yet, did she have connections to the murky underworld of the dark web, a realm where anonymity reigns supreme and morality is but a distant memory? I couldn't take any chances. With trembling hands, I shut down my laptop, the whirring of the hard drive echoing like a death knell in the silence of my room. It was a desperate gambit, a last-ditch effort to salvage what remained of my shattered sense of security. With a resolve born of desperation, I formatted my entire laptop, erasing every trace of my digital footprint in a bid to evade her reach. It was a drastic measure, one born of necessity rather than choice, but in that moment, it felt like my only lifeline in a sea of uncertainty. And then, as quickly as she had entered my life, she was gone, vanished into the ether without a trace. The messages ceased, the friend requests evaporated, leaving behind nothing but an eerie silence that hung heavy in the air. I wanted to believe that I was safe, that her threats had been nothing more than empty bluster. But deep down, I knew that the specter of her presence would linger in the shadows of my mind, a constant reminder of the dangers that lurked in the darkest corners of the internet. In the end, I was left to grapple with the unsettling truth that in the digital age, even the most intimate aspects of our lives are not immune to the prying eyes of strangers. And though I had escaped unscathed, I couldn't help but wonder how many others had fallen victim to her insidious machinations, their lives forever altered by a single click of the mouse. Navigating the labyrinthine corridors of the dark web, I embarked on a journey that would plunge me into the depths of human depravity. Armed with nothing but my smartphone and a TOR client, I ventured forth into the digital abyss, seeking the forbidden fruits that lay hidden in its shadowy recesses. Little did I know the horrors that awaited me in the murky depths of this clandestine realm. The dark web, a hidden underworld shrouded in secrecy and anonymity, proved to be a daunting landscape to navigate. With no guiding light to illuminate my path, I found myself adrift in a sea of obscurity, struggling to discern friend from foe amidst the tangled web of illicit activities and nefarious intentions. It was a place where the laws of society held no sway, and where the darkest impulses of humanity ran rampant, unchecked by the constraints of morality or conscience. As I delved deeper into this digital underworld, I soon discovered that the dark web was a marketplace like no other. Here, everything had its price, and nothing came without a cost. Cryptocurrency flowed like water, exchanging hands in the shadows as users sought to procure the forbidden fruits that lay tantalizingly beyond the reach of conventional society. Yet, amidst the sea of illicit goods and services that flooded the digital marketplace, one particular find would sear itself into my consciousness with a visceral intensity that defied comprehension. A human cookbook, a twisted tome that laid bare the darkest recesses of the human psyche with chilling precision. With a sickening sense of dread, I began to peruse its contents, each page unveiling a new horror more grotesque than the last. The cookbook was a grim compendium of depravity, offering detailed instructions on everything from how to stalk your victims to which age and gender yielded the most palatable results. It was a matter-of-fact catalogue of atrocities, devoid of morality or remorse, each word dripping with the cold detachment of a predator stalking its prey. As I read on, the nauseating reality of what I had stumbled upon began to sink in. The cookbook detailed not only how to butcher and cook your victims but also how to host a macabre feast, a twisted celebration of the ultimate taboo. It offered tips on how to keep your prey alive and fresh, prolonging their suffering as you indulged in the sickening pleasures of your twisted desires. The sheer depravity of it all left me reeling, my mind struggling to comprehend the depths of human cruelty laid bare before me. Sleep became an elusive commodity, haunted by nightmares of blood-soaked feasts, and the chilling whispers of a darkness that threatened to consume my very soul. In the weeks that followed, the cookbook remained a specter looming over my every waking moment, casting a shadow of fear and revulsion that tainted even the most mundane of interactions. The faces of strangers became potential victims, their innocence nothing more than a facade masking the horrors that lurked beneath the surface. As the memories of that fateful encounter continued to haunt me, I couldn't help but wonder what other horrors lay hidden in the darkest corners of the web. And though I vowed never to return to that twisted realm, the knowledge that such darkness existed just beyond the reach of society's gaze filled me with a bone-chilling dread that would never truly fade. It was during my second year of college when I first stumbled upon the tantalizing allure of the deep web. It happened innocuously enough, sparked by a YouTube video that promised to unveil the hidden underbelly of the internet. The video's narrator, his voice tinged with a mixture of caution and fascination, warned viewers about the dangers lurking within the depths of cyberspace. He spoke of the dark web, a shadowy realm where anonymity reigned supreme and illicit activities flourished unchecked. Yet, despite his admonitions, my curiosity burned bright, a beacon drawing me ever closer to the forbidden. Following his instructions meticulously, I embarked on my journey into the digital abyss. I downloaded the Tor browser, a gateway to the hidden recesses of the internet, and meticulously covered my webcam with a piece of black tape, a precaution against prying eyes. Installing Tails OS, a secure operating system designed to preserve anonymity, I took my first tentative steps into this uncharted territory, my pulse quickening with a heady mix of excitement and trepidation. Navigating through the labyrinthine corridors of the deep web, I encountered a kaleidoscope of illicit offerings. From fake identification documents and counterfeit currency to clandestine marketplaces peddling illegal drugs and firearms, the virtual marketplace of forbidden goods stretched out before me like a twisted carnival of vice and depravity. Creepy ghost sites and conspiracy forums whispered secrets of shadowy cabals and clandestine operations, each click of the mouse leading me further down the rabbit hole of digital intrigue. But it was one fateful day, while perusing the depths of UnderDIR, a directory of hidden websites, that I stumbled upon a page that would forever haunt my nightmares. It resembled a forum, reminiscent of the chaotic anonymity of 4chan, yet its contents were a grotesque perversion of human decency. Images, gruesome and macabre, flickered to life on my screen, each more horrifying than the last. The first post, a chilling testament to the savagery of the Mexican drug cartels, depicted the aftermath of a brutal massacre. Women, their bodies mutilated and dismembered, lay strewn across a desolate road like discarded puppets. Limbs were severed, throats slit, and eyes gouged out in a frenzy of violence that defied comprehension. My stomach churned, bow rising in my throat as I struggled to comprehend the sheer brutality of what lay before me. Yet, morbid curiosity compelled me to scroll further, my trembling fingers navigating the morass of depravity that unfolded before my horrified gaze. Suicide victims, their lifeless forms captured in haunting detail, stared back at me from the cold embrace of death. The stench of decay seemed to permeate the very air around me as I bore witness to the aftermath of unspeakable tragedy. Each image, a dagger plunging into the depths of my soul, left scars that would never fully heal. I felt as though I were drowning in a sea of anguish and despair, the weight of humanity's darkest impulses pressing down upon me with suffocating intensity. I wanted to look away, to flee from the horrors that besieged me, yet I found myself transfixed by the sheer magnitude of human suffering laid bare before my eyes. It was a descent into madness, a journey into the darkest recesses of the human psyche that left me shattered and broken. As I finally tore myself away from the screen, tears streaming down my face, I vowed never again to venture into the abyss that had consumed me so completely. The deep web, with its siren song of forbidden knowledge and hidden truths, had revealed to me the true extent of human depravity, a truth that I would carry with me for the rest of my days. Haunted by the specter of those haunting images, I retreated into the safety of the surface web, seeking solace in the mundane routines of everyday life. Yet, try as I might, I could never fully escape the horrors that had etched themselves into the fabric of my being. They lingered in the shadows of my mind, a constant reminder of the fragility of innocence in a world consumed by darkness. In the end, I realized that some secrets are best left buried, some truths best left unspoken. For in the pursuit of knowledge, we risk losing our very souls to the abyss. And though the scars may fade with time, the memories of that fateful descent into the depths of the deep web would forever remain etched upon my soul, a grim testament to the horrors that lurk beneath the surface of our digital reality. As I stepped into the abyss of the so-called Red Room, I plunged into a realm where darkness seemed to materialize, permeating every corner of my consciousness. It was a place whispered about in hushed tones, where the vile and the macabre danced together in a twisted waltz of depravity. Yet, no cautionary tale could prepare me for the chilling tableau that awaited within. Navigating the murky depths of the dark web, a digital underworld shrouded in anonymity, I stumbled upon the entrance to the Red Room, an infamous haunt of cyber predators and voyeurs of human suffering. With trepidation clawing at the edges of my resolve, I ventured forth, unaware of the horrors that lay in wait. The images that assaulted my senses were a symphony of terror, a cacophony of grotesque scenes etched into the fabric of my psyche. Amongst the grisly spectacles of death and decay, one haunting tableau seared itself into my mind with an intensity that defied description. In a desolate landscape reminiscent of the arid expanses of Egypt or Arabia, a group of figures emerged from the shadows, their silhouettes cast in stark relief against the unforgiving backdrop of the desert sands. Clad in garments that spoke of a culture alien to my own, they dragged a figure, a mere child, into the harsh light of day. The boy, a wretched specter of malnourishment, was a tragic testament to the cruelty of his captors. With callous disregard for his humanity, they sought to make an example of him, to unleash their fury upon his innocent frame. Amidst the deafening roar of silence that engulfed the desolate landscape, the terrorists' voices rose in a crescendo of menace, their commands punctuating the stillness like daggers of ice. When the boy failed to comply, when his voice remained but a whisper lost amidst the howling winds, they resorted to unspeakable brutality. With chilling efficiency, they sliced through the tender flesh of his legs, rendering him to his knees, a sacrifice upon the altar of their twisted ideology. And then, with a gesture devoid of remorse, they raised a weapon, a rifle, its metallic form glinting malevolently in the unforgiving glare of the sun. As the boy's mother stood, a silent witness to the unfolding tragedy, they pulled the trigger, a single, deafening echo that reverberated through the desolate expanse. In an instant, life ebbed from the boy's frail form, his gaze forever frozen in a silent scream of agony. And then, with a cruel finality, they severed his head from his shoulders, a grotesque tableau of death etched against the canvas of the desert sands. It was a scene that defied comprehension, a nightmare made flesh in the harsh light of day. And as I recoiled from the screen, my mind reeling from the horrors that had unfolded before my eyes, I knew that I had glimpsed into the abyss, and that it had stared back into me. The Red Room, with its myriad horrors and unending descent into darkness, would forever remain a testament to the depths of human depravity, a grim reminder of the fragility of innocence in a world consumed by shadows. And as I retreated from its grasp, vowing never again to tread its blood-stained halls, I carried with me the weight of 1,000 nightmares, a burden that would haunt me until the end of my days. The chilling tableau of the Red Room lingered in my mind, haunting my every waking moment. The digital abyss had unveiled a grotesque theater of human cruelty, where innocence was sacrificed upon the altar of depravity. Each detail of the scene etched itself into my consciousness, like a scar upon my soul, refusing to fade with the passage of time. The desert landscape, barren and unforgiving, served as the backdrop for the macabre spectacle that unfolded before me. The figures, cloaked in shadows, moved with an eerie purpose, dragging the hapless child into the merciless light of day. His emaciated form bore the scars of neglect and abuse, a testament to the horrors he had endured at the hands of his captors. As the terrorists' voices rose in a chorus of menace, I felt a chill run down my spine. Their commands echoed through the desolate expanse, punctuating the stillness with an air of impending doom. And when the boys' feeble protests fell upon deaf ears, they unleashed their fury with ruthless efficiency. The sound of flesh being rent asunder echoed through the desert, a sickening reminder of the brutality that lurked within the hearts of men. With each cruel incision, the boy's cries grew more desperate, his pleas for mercy drowned out by the merciless howling of the wind. And then, in a moment of unspeakable horror, they raised the weapon, a cold, lifeless instrument of death. The boy's mother watched in silent agony as they pulled the trigger, the deafening roar of gunfire shattering the eerie calm of the desert. I recoiled from the screen, my mind awash with a maelstrom of emotions. The images seared themselves into my consciousness, leaving me haunted by the specter of unspeakable evil. The Red Room had revealed to me the darkest depths of human depravity, leaving me grappling with the fragility of innocence in a world consumed by shadows. As I retreated from its grasp, I vowed never again to succumb to the allure of its blood-stained halls. But deep down, I knew that the horrors I had witnessed would continue to haunt me, a grim reminder of the darkness that lurked within us all. As the high school final exams were cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it marked the beginning of an unexpected journey for me. While many of my fellow students rejoiced at the news of waived exams, I found myself in a different state of mind. Instead of celebrating, I felt a sense of disconnect, a longing for something beyond the confines of my familiar surroundings. It was then that I made the decision to spend my time in Woodstock, a picturesque rural town nestled in the hills of upstate New York. With lockdown measures in place and online classes becoming the new norm, I found myself adapting to this new way of learning. Thankfully, I was provided with my own personal laptop for remote education. Little did I know that this seemingly mundane device would become the gateway to a world far beyond my wildest imagination. During my time in Woodstock, with its serene landscapes and tranquil atmosphere, I began to explore topics that piqued my curiosity. I delved into subjects beyond the confines of my usual interests, such as conspiracy theories like the moon landing hoax. It was during one of these late-night internet deep dives that I stumbled upon a book that would change the course of my life forever. The Darknet, by Benjamin Percy. Percy's book opened my eyes to the shadowy underbelly of the internet, a realm inhabited by hackers, criminals, and those seeking anonymity. It sparked a fascination with the hidden corners of cyberspace, leading me down a rabbit hole of intrigue and danger. As I delved deeper into the technology of the surface web, I discovered that it represents only a fraction of the entire internet. This realization fueled my desire to explore further, to uncover the secrets lurking in the depths of the dark web. Despite the lack of clear guidance online, I scoured books and resources for information, determined to unlock the mysteries of this hidden realm. Eventually, I made the decision to take the plunge. I purchased a VPN and took additional privacy measures before downloading the Tor browser, the gateway to the dark web. With trembling hands and a racing heart, I navigated through layers of encryption and anonymity, venturing into the unknown with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. At first, my journey into the dark web was exhilarating. I uncovered hidden forums and marketplaces, where everything from illicit drugs to stolen identities was up for sale. It was a world unlike anything I had ever experienced, a digital underworld where the rules of society seemed to hold little sway. But as I delved deeper, the true nature of the dark web revealed itself. I stumbled upon sites dedicated to illegal activities, from drug trafficking to human trafficking, each more disturbing than the last. Despite feeling a growing sense of unease, I pressed on, driven by a morbid curiosity that refused to be sated. Then, one fateful night, my journey took a dark and terrifying turn. I stumbled upon a site discussing the exploitation of banking systems, with detailed instructions on how to use stolen account details for fraudulent transactions. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut, filling me with a sickening sense of dread. But I couldn't tear my eyes away. I continued to explore, to delve deeper into the abyss, until I found myself on a live streaming site like no other. Viewers eagerly awaited a premiere, their anticipation palpable through the screen. And then I saw it, the price of admission, paid in cryptocurrency, for a glimpse into the darkest recesses of human depravity. Ignoring the warning signs, I paid the price and gained access to the stream. What I saw will haunt me for the rest of my days: images of unspeakable horror, acts of violence and depravity that defied all comprehension. I felt bow rise in my throat as I watched, my mind recoiling from the sheer brutality on display. And then, as if sensing my horror, the stream abruptly ended. I was left alone in the darkness, the silence ringing in my ears like a death knell. But the nightmare was far from over. As I attempted to close the site, I noticed something chilling: the light of my webcam, blinking ominously in the darkness. I froze, my blood turning to ice in my veins. I was being watched. By who or what I couldn't say. All I knew was that I had stumbled into a world beyond my comprehension, a realm of darkness and despair from which there might be no escape. In a panic, I shut down my computer and spent the next few days in a state of paranoid dread, jumping at every shadow and haunted by nightmares of what I had seen. When I finally mustered the courage to boot up my laptop again, everything seemed normal. But the memory of that night lingered like a stain on my soul, a reminder of the dangers that lurked in the depths of the dark web. It was then that I made a vow, a solemn promise to myself: I would never venture into those depths again. I would leave the dark web to the monsters that dwelled within, and I would warn others against following in my footsteps. For the darkness that lurked in those shadowy corners was not meant for the eyes of mortals, and to gaze upon it was to risk losing oneself forever. For years, I've been a curious internet wanderer, occasionally delving into the depths of the dark web through Tor. My interest was primarily piqued by the allure of finding rare ebooks that were difficult or impossible to obtain through conventional means. It was a harmless pastime, or so I thought, until one fateful encounter shook me to my core. It was a typical evening, and I found myself browsing through the directory listing of useful dark web sites, searching for my next literary treasure trove. Among the myriad of obscure links, one particular site caught my eye. It boasted a sinister array of offerings: killers for hire, illegal weapons, stolen goods, and more. It was like stumbling upon a digital black market, and I couldn't resist the temptation to explore further. With a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, I clicked on the link, half expecting it to lead me to a virtual den of iniquity. As the web page loaded, a sense of unease crept over me. This was uncharted territory, far removed from the familiar comforts of mainstream internet browsing. Suddenly, a warning message from Tor flashed across the screen, alerting me that certain functions of the website had been blocked for my protection. Before I could process this, my attention was drawn to a more alarming development. The tiny LED light next to my laptop's webcam had inexplicably switched on. A wave of dread washed over me as I realized the implications. Had I stumbled upon something more sinister than I had bargained for? Was someone attempting to breach my privacy, or was it simply a glitch in the system? I frantically attempted to close the Tor browser, my fingers fumbling over the keys in a panicked frenzy. With each failed attempt, the sense of urgency heightened. I could feel the weight of paranoia settling in, casting a shadow over my once casual exploration of the dark web. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I managed to shut down the browser and slam the lid of my laptop shut. But the fear lingered, festering like a malignant presence in the back of my mind. Had I inadvertently exposed myself to danger by venturing into this murky realm of cyberspace? In the aftermath of that harrowing experience, I found myself plagued by doubt and apprehension. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had crossed a line, delving too deep into the hidden corners of the internet where danger lurked at every turn. In the days and weeks that followed, I became increasingly wary of venturing beyond the safety of familiar websites like the Imperial Library of Trantor and Project Gutenberg. The allure of the dark web had lost its appeal, replaced instead by a lingering sense of trepidation. Looking back on that chilling encounter, I can't help but wonder what might have been lurking in the shadows of that illicit website. Was it a genuine threat, or merely a cautionary tale of the dangers that lurk in the digital wilderness? One thing is certain: I've learned my lesson. Sometimes, curiosity can lead us down paths we were never meant to tread. And in the vast expanse of the internet, it's all too easy to lose sight of where the boundaries lie. So I'll stick to the safer, more well-trodden paths from now on, content to leave the mysteries of the dark web to those brave or foolish enough to explore them. As for me, I'll take solace in the familiar embrace of the mainstream internet, where the dangers may be less tangible but no less real. Before I go any further, anybody who says Daisy's destruction is false is bullshitting. Peter Scully has since been locked away in some jail in Cagayan de Oro in the Philippines. There are many things I really can't say here, so I am awfully sorry I can't really go into much detail. But anyway, I used to write to a recently defunct website called Best Gore but had to leave. I think you may still see my entries in the Wayback Machine. This was probably more than 5 years ago. Bear in mind I am no stranger to the darknet, as I have been going there since I was 18 after an ex-boyfriend had introduced me to it, so I had an idea of what to expect. I wrote a post about serious things in there, and one was about a medical paper published about the effects of nuclear war to unborn children and infants. After a while, when the article came out, I was tipped by an acquaintance that, hey, you know, I saw you on a forum in the dark net, and I was like, dude, that's impossible because I literally never go to darknet forums. So anyway, he gave me an Onion link which I had to visit. So I checked the link out of what my friend sent me on WhatsApp, and I saw my article with my name and my words in a forum there. Not just any forum. It was a forum dedicated to Hardcore. For those unfamiliar, Hardcore is a genre of porn focused mainly on sexual torture of children. I can tell you right now, they did not say anything nice to the infants I wrote about. Quite frankly, that was not the worst part. I can truly say that sometimes curiosity killed the cat with no satisfaction at all. When the forum was active and was at its height, it has been seized by Interpol/FBI. It was a thriving community of pedophiles, and they shared links amongst each other. I checked out links of comments under the post that was made from what I had written. It honestly took me to multiple other forums and websites, including the pretty big child porn website called Playpen, which has its own Wikipedia entry because it was a massive undertaking for law enforcement. The youngest victim I have seen was an 8-month-old infant named Nathan, and his abuser, and, perhaps even a pimp, was his very own father. Nathan definitely was and is not the youngest out there. There are many Nathans in the world abused by their caretakers, family members, and even their parents all over the world. I would say a good amount of child porn in the dark net is family-curated content. The rest are content produced to people like Scully taking advantage of poor children from countries like mine. One of many is the infamous Richard Huckle. I collected some screenshots and links and sent a report to Cybertipline. I do not understand why the FBI and Interpol do not make it available for citizens to submit tips about this. While it is true they have honeypots, there are many websites that are not. It absolutely breaks my heart each time I have to recall this story, but I feel like I have to say this out loud because people think that this is just some freak on the internet with their weird-ass stories. But it's true. This was from many years ago, but I still cry each time I have to think about this. I have a very, very soft spot for children and animals. I have went out of my way for them more times than I care to count. Did you guys know that Ashton Kutcher is also fighting for the same cause? If you have time, please check out his project called Thorn. My advice is, please love your children, if you have any, and please do not take it as lying when they tell you that they are touched in their special areas by someone you know. I see this happen a lot. Children do not have a concept of this, and anyone should take it seriously when a child says this. Take them to a doctor and get a rape kit. Get the police involved. A few years ago, in a moment of curiosity and perhaps a dash of naivety, I found myself embarking on a journey into the unknown depths of the internet. Armed with Tor, the gateway to the enigmatic world of the deep web, I set out to explore what lay beyond the surface of the digital realm. My first port of call was the Hidden Wiki, a repository of information that served as a gateway to the hidden corners of the internet. As I perused through the articles, I found myself drawn into a world that seemed to exist in stark contrast to the familiar landscape of the surface web. Here, amidst the anonymity and secrecy, lay a tapestry of content that ranged from the mundane to the utterly disturbing. It wasn't long before I stumbled upon topics that sent a chill down my spine. The casual and matter-of-fact discussions about taboo subjects such as child pornography were deeply unsettling. While there was no explicit endorsement of such reprehensible acts, the mere acknowledgement of their existence within certain online communities was enough to leave a lasting impression on me. It was a stark reminder of the dark underbelly of the internet, where the boundaries of morality seemed to blur and dissipate into the digital ether. One of the most haunting discoveries during my exploration was a list of sexual subcultures. Each entry seemed to delve deeper into the realm of human depravity, from the obscure fetishes to the downright macabre. Terms like bug catchers and groups that fetishized cannibalism seemed to leap off the screen, their implications sending a shiver down my spine. It was a sobering reminder of the depths to which human desire could plummet when left unchecked and unexamined. Amidst the sea of unsettling content, there was one document that stood out in my memory: the Internet Manifesto. Though the specifics of its contents escape me now, I remember it being a provocative and intense read, filled with references to films like The Matrix. It was a manifesto for the digital age, a call to arms for those who sought to challenge the status quo and redefine the boundaries of the online world. Reading it was like peering into the minds of the Internet's most radical and ideologically driven denizens, a glimpse into a world where reality and virtuality seemed to blur and intertwine in unexpected ways. Despite the unsettling nature of my discoveries, I pressed on, delving deeper into the murky waters of the deep web. The Silk Road, with its illicit marketplace and shadowy dealings, beckoned to me like a siren's song. As I perused through the listings of drugs, weapons, and other contraband, I couldn't help but feel like an intruder in a world that was not meant for the likes of me. It was a place where anonymity was currency and trust was a commodity in short supply, a stark reminder of the lawlessness that lurked just beneath the surface of the digital world. Thankfully, my foray into the deep web did not result in any tangible harm. I was not hacked, nor was I subjected to any form of surveillance or intrusion. But the experience left an indelible mark on me, a sobering reminder of the darker aspects of human nature that found expression in the hidden corners of the Internet. It was a journey into the abyss, a confrontation with the shadows that lurked just beyond the glow of the computer screen. And though I emerged unscathed, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease, a lingering awareness of the darkness that lay just beneath the surface of the digital realm. As the morning sun painted golden hues across the Tuscan landscape, casting long shadows over the rolling hills and vineyards, I sat on the terrace of my rustic home, savoring the tranquility that enveloped me like a warm embrace. The air was crisp and fragrant, carrying with it the sweet aroma of blooming flowers and the earthy scent of olive trees. With a steaming cup of espresso in hand, I breathed in deeply, allowing the serenity of the moment to wash over me. It was moments like these that reminded me why I had chosen to make Tuscany my home, a place where time seemed to stand still, where the worries of the world melted away in the embrace of nature. Bella and Luca, my loyal companions, lounged at my feet, basking in the sun's gentle warmth. Their contented sighs echoed my own sense of peace as I watched the morning unfold before me, a canvas of colors and sounds that danced in perfect harmony. But as the clock struck 11, shattering the stillness with its shrill chime, a sense of unease stirred within me. The tranquility that had enveloped my home was suddenly shattered, replaced by a creeping sense of apprehension that sent shivers down my spine. I set down my espresso with a furrowed brow, my senses on high alert as I made my way to the front door, Bella and Luca trailing behind me like silent sentinels. Peering through the window, I caught sight of the postman hastily retreating down the gravel path, leaving behind a small package adorned with a foreign postmark. Curiosity piqued, I hesitated for a moment before reaching out to retrieve the package, its weight heavy in my hands as I carried it inside. The brown paper was worn and weathered, the edges frayed with age, giving it an air of mystery that sent a shiver down my spine. With trembling hands I tore open the package, releasing a cloud of white powder that billowed into the air like smoke. Instinctively, I recoiled, my heart pounding in my chest as the powder settled on my skin, tingling and numbing as if it held some dark secret within its midst. Before I could comprehend the situation, the tranquility of my home was shattered once more by the violent intrusion of masked figures clad in tactical gear. The door burst open with a deafening crash, the sound reverberating through the house like thunder as a team of operatives flooded into my sanctuary, their presence suffocating. Bella and Luca barked furiously, their protective instincts kicking into overdrive as they circled around me, but their efforts were in vain as I found myself outnumbered and outmatched. With nowhere to run and no means of escape, I could only watch helplessly as my home was torn apart before my very eyes, cherished belongings tossed aside like meaningless trinkets in their relentless search for answers. Handcuffed and bewildered, I was dragged away from the only life I had ever known, my protests falling on deaf ears as I was whisked away to an unknown fate. Hours turned into days as I languished in the cold confines of the interrogation room, cut off from the outside world and the ones I held dear. The questions came fast and furious, a barrage of inquiries conducted in rapid Italian that left me reeling and disoriented. Who was I? What did I know? And most importantly, why had I been targeted? I pleaded for understanding, for mercy, but my words fell upon deaf ears as the relentless questioning continued, each inquiry probing deeper into my past and present. Memories of a simpler time flashed through my mind, lazy afternoons spent basking in the Tuscan sun, surrounded by the warmth of family and friends. But now, those memories felt like distant echoes, overshadowed by the harsh reality of my predicament. What had I stumbled into? Who was behind the mysterious package? And why had it brought such unwelcome attention to my doorstep? The questions swirled around in my mind like a whirlpool, pulling me deeper into a vortex of confusion and despair. Determined to uncover the truth, I pieced together fragments of the puzzle, delving into the shadows of my past in search of answers. But with each revelation came new questions, leading me deeper into a labyrinth of deceit and betrayal. Yet amidst the darkness, a flicker of hope emerged, a resolve to confront the forces that sought to destroy me and reclaim the life I once knew. Armed with nothing but determination, I vowed to face the unknown with courage and resilience, ready to defy the odds and emerge victorious. For as long as there was breath in my body, I would fight. Fight for truth. Fight for justice. And above all, fight for the chance to reclaim the tranquility that had been stolen from me amidst the rolling hills of Tuscany, my beloved homeland. As days turned into weeks, I languished in the depths of uncertainty, grappling with the weight of my newfound reality. But even in the darkest moments, a glimmer of hope remained, a beacon of light guiding me through the shadows. With each passing day, I uncovered new clues, unraveling the threads of deception that had ensnared me. From cryptic messages hidden in the depths of the internet to clandestine meetings in the dead of night, I followed the trail of breadcrumbs, inching closer to the truth with every step. But as I delved deeper into the darkness, I soon realized that the forces arrayed against me were more formidable than I had ever imagined. Behind the veil of secrecy lurked a shadowy cabal, their reach extending far beyond the confines of the digital realm. Armed with knowledge and determination, I forged ahead, confronting my adversaries head-on in a battle for my very soul. But with each victory came new challenges, testing my resolve and pushing me to the brink of despair. Yet through it all, I refused to surrender to the darkness. With every setback, I rose stronger and more determined than before, driven by a relentless pursuit of justice and redemption. And as the sun set on the horizon, casting long shadows across the Tuscan landscape, I stood tall and unyielding, a solitary figure bathed in the glow of a new dawn. For in the end, it was not the darkness that defined me, but the light that burned bright within my soul. And so, I pressed on, a beacon of hope in a world consumed by shadows, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with courage and conviction. For in the end, the greatest triumphs are born not in the absence of fear, but in the face of adversity. Thus concludes my journey, a tale of mystery and intrigue, of betrayal and redemption, set amidst the rolling hills of Tuscany, and the shadowy depths of the internet's underbelly. And though the road ahead may be fraught with peril, I face it with an unwavering resolve, for I know that true strength lies not in the absence of fear, but in the courage to confront it head-on. My first experience on the dark web was nothing short of harrowing. It was a moment that forever altered my perception of the internet and the world at large. At the age of 17, I was still naively curious, eager to explore the hidden corners of cyberspace that lay beyond the reach of conventional search engines. Little did I know the darkness that awaited me. The journey began innocently enough, with a few simple clicks and the installation of specialized software. As the browser loaded, I felt a thrill of excitement mixed with apprehension, unsure of what I would find on the other side of the digital divide. What greeted me was a chilling tableau of depravity. The first thing that caught my eye was a picture of a bald girl, her hands tied behind her back, lying naked on a bed. The image was hauntingly real, with visible moth bites on her neck and a look of fear etched into her eyes. She couldn't have been much older than me, and yet her innocence had been brutally stripped away. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I quickly closed the browser, unable to bear the sight any longer. It was a stark reminder of the darkness that lurked just beneath the surface of the internet, a world where the most vulnerable among us were exploited for profit and pleasure. But that was just the beginning. As I delved deeper into the dark web, I uncovered even more disturbing content: human trafficking sites where individuals were bought and sold like commodities, their lives reduced to mere transactions in the eyes of their captors. The scale of the problem was staggering. Millions of people, many of them women and children, were being trafficked into forced labor, sexual exploitation, and slavery every year. And yet, so much of it went unnoticed and unreported, hidden away in the shadows where few dared to look.